Hi ladies and gentlemen, today is November 17th, 2015, and I've been asked to comment on the naval launches off the California coast. I've been asked to comment on the Paris terrorist attacks. And while I could get into some specifics, you know what? I decided that it just wasn't worth it. Because deceit and lies and the desire for death and destruction of anything that we don't agree with is all we react to and about. I had a dear friend send a YouTube video to me the other day, and he's right. You know, insanity is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. The government's lied to us in 2001 on 9/11. They lied to us about the Gulf of Tonkin. They've lied to us about nearly everything. And what do the people do after the Paris attacks? They ask for the same thing. Boots on the ground. Go fight them. Go kill. Go do what we need to do to clean them up. And we don't even understand or we don't care how we're being manipulated, deceived, lied to, and set up for destruction. And frankly, I'm getting kind of tired of it. Because after 6,000 years of this, you'd think that maybe somebody would start waking up to it. But we still look at these evil leaders to solve our problems for us. And all they do is they milk us and feed off of us. And we never stop. So a lot of you might be bored with what I'm going to say here. But like my friend, you know, I really don't care because we can't keep doing this. We can't. Defense is one thing, but that's not what's going on. I did talk about the Paris attacks a little bit on the Pete Santilli Show, episode 1102. The link is below. You can go listen to that if you want. It doesn't get into a lot of particulars, but we talk about this fear generation and the idea that the governments want to get more control of their people. They're at war with their own people. Do you understand that? They're at war. The United States government is at war with its citizens. The French government is at war with its citizens, etc., etc., etc. And that's what all this is about, with the end result of the Georgia Guidestones, and even worse than that. If you don't know what those are, go look them up. This has been going on, as I just said, for thousands of years, and we just refuse to get it. I know every generation has to deal with the things that confront them on their own, and it's a learning process. I understand that, but come on, folks. You know, we have genetic memory. We have a consciousness that's been given to us. We've got to start using it. Everything from every institution, be it governmental, ecclesiastical, science, whatever, they all have lied to us. I'm getting more information every day, and it's just mind-boggling. The level and the amount of deceit that is going on and being fed to us every day, spoon-fed to us, and we just accept it. And yet, the evidence is surrounding us and also in our hearts to say, no, this isn't right. There's something wrong. And I'm not going to go into any particulars about what those are right now. But I can tell you they're mind-boggling. And they do two things. The first is they show that so much of this supposed reality is a lie. Especially the explanations of things around us and why certain things occur and the government's in charge and those types of things. And the second is we deny so much about what's in our hearts. When you look into another human being's eyes, you should see something there than just an enemy. And as my friend said, we can't keep doing this to each other. We can't let these leaders of governments keep manipulating us and doing these horrible things to our brothers and sisters, which eventually come back to haunt us. One thing I have to do on this video is I have to talk about Islam. It's a continuation of my video, Islam's alliance with the U.S. military-industrial complex. I have to do that because I made some statements on that video that I want to explain because they're true. And you can go back and look at that if you want to know what they are. It's only a 15-minute video. But what I want to talk about here, and again, some of you are going to be bored about this, but I can't help it. You know, you can turn it off if you want, but this is the important part. There are apparently types and shadows in the Hebrew scriptures, and I can give you all the information about the history. I already know about where they came from and all that. That's not the issue here. The issue is that they talk about something that's very important, and I'm going to read them to you. And I want you to remember that Islam means His peace. It means surrender, and the Muslims will tell you it means to God. It means to Allah. Okay. But there are other indications that that's not what it is. It's more like a Pax Romana, that the peace is the way they dictate it to you or you die. I feel bad for the Muslims. They've been used by the Western powers over the years, and they've been marginalized in one respect. They've also been, unfortunately, put into an extremist position. But it was inherent in their original writings. And it looks like it will, in some morphed fashion, whether it be going after climate deniers or whatever. It will be a religion of force based on the principles of Islam, that control that will become the New World Religion and the New World Order. Let's start with a little bit of stuff, and of course I'm going to use this. And I know a lot of you don't want to hear it, but you got to listen to this, because the elites believe this even if you don't. This is their playbook, because they look at it as the truth, as their playbook, whether you do or not. As I said, there are types and shadows in the scriptures. Genesis 16:11-12. Let me read this to you. This is about Hagar and Ishmael. Ishmael is the son of Abraham through Hagar. Let me read this to you. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. The important part. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. Whoa. Why am I reading this? Because it was out of Ishmael, of course, that Islam grows. Took a long time. It actually took about 600 AD, as I mentioned in that Islam video, for that to happen. But I wanted to read that first. Again, this is not a slam on the people in Islam or Arabs or anybody else. It's to show you that this is being used as a playbook to conduct what's happening in the world today. And this peace that is talked about in Islam is exactly the peace that we're warned about in this book. I want to read Isaiah 29:7-24. I shouldn't read the whole thing. Actually, it's 17-24. It is not yet a very little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field shall be esteemed as a forest. And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. In other words, there are people there that will hear the truth. But in other scriptures, it talks about those people, okay, having their heads cut off for the truth. And we see that happening today by this supposed religion of peace. And it's, again, being used by the elite to do this. Daniel 8:23-25. Very important. Let me read this real quick. 8:23-25. This is Daniel. And in the latter times, this isn't back in history. He's basically saying that this is later. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart. And by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. I want to repeat one part of that. And by peace shall destroy many. Was this a prophecy about Islam? The peace of Islam, which also means, of course, the stinging of a snake. Depends on the consonants or the vowels that you use. In one sense it means surrendering, but surrendering to whom? Islam will say it's to God. Is it really? Or is it to the system of this dark king? I want to read Thessalonians 5:3. Very important. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Now I realize a lot of these seem to be taken out of context, but when you understand the Hebrew, and especially the method of prophesying with the Hebrew prophets, these things take on a different light. What am I saying? What I am saying is this: that everything in this world has lied to us about almost everything. And that the peace that we just read about may in fact prophetically, by name, explain how at least the Western world will be destroyed. And yeah, we probably deserve it. Our abortions, our wickedness, our unjust wars, our use of usury and of money to control things, our stealing. Americans in particular, you've closed your eyes to the truth. What is the truth? Well, it's really pretty simple. It's called the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or another way of saying that is, do not do to your neighbor what you find detestable, if it were done to you. We haven't abided by that. And our purpose here was to learn evil and good, and hopefully be able to distinguish between the two and choose the right. So I probably didn't make the point the way I wanted to here. I don't want to slam the people in Islam, but when you look at what the book of the Quran talks about, it's force. And it may have been prophesied in the Old and New Testaments, even before it came about. Because again, Islam didn't show up until 600 AD. But it's said, using prophetic type and shadow, that the thing that would destroy the world would be called peace. Whether it's exactly the way it is today, the way they hate Christians, and the Quran says to kill the unbelievers, and there are a lot of definitions of what that is. Regardless, it's a religion of force. It'll be used by the elites to force you into the New World Order and into the New World Order religion, which will be a form of it. So like I say, I didn't go into any specifics today about the military or any of this, because I felt that this was an important thing to tell you. You are the gold. You are the prize. And anything that attempts to destroy you or to take away your ability to find truth on your own